Good day, guys. We're going to be talking about two-point perspective today, and in front of you, we've already got a complete, rather, two-point perspective. You'll note that I've made certain bits of notes over here for you guys. I'm going to pay attention to my auxiliary views a little bit over here and over here. Okay, so my auxiliary views give me certain bits of information. If you note that I'll get my height off of this view over here, whether it be a front view or a specific side view, I'm always going to be getting my height information on here. Okay, from a top view, however, think about, will I be able to determine the height of a building looking at it from the top? Not really, but I would be able to tell you what the width or the length would be. Okay, so over here I've got, let's call it building number 1 and building number 2. Okay, so auxiliary top view. Just note I've called it auxiliary views because they are going to help us, both these views are going to help us find this final product over here, which is my two-point perspective. Okay, so the next thing that I want to just quickly point out is I've got my picture plane, okay, on which my building number 1 is touching on the corner. I've got my horizon line, okay, that part which is very clear. I have to be able to find my 2 vanishing points on my horizon line. Think about if you look over the ocean and you've got that ship sitting on the horizon, the further and further away it moves from you, the smaller it will get. Okay, and then obviously I've got my ground line on which I'm going to start drawing my object. That is, if my object is actually touching the ground line. If it's not, I'd have to obviously draw it off of my ground line. I'm going to start off by saying that whatever touches the picture plane, just like in one-point perspective, would need to be simply dropped vertically down, okay, right down to your ground line, and perhaps even if this object over here was below my ground line, I'd have to drop it below my ground line as well. Okay, for as far as it is needed, because I'm going to be projecting the information, which is my height information, across onto this bar. Now I call this my information bar. This is probably one of the more important ones for me. Remember, there are many methods used for two-point perspective. This is just one of them. Okay, so this is my information bar. It's going to hold all the information projected onto it, which would then obviously be height of whatever object this is going to be. If I had various or different heights depicted in this picture, I would have to go and project those heights onto my information bar as well. Okay, but in this one here, it's a very basic shape, but I also need to understand that whenever something is going to look complicated, I always fall back on my basics. And in this picture over here, I've drawn the parameters in which a shape would fit. Okay, so now that I've got this information over here, okay, I can take that and go and project it to my right vanishing point and to my left vanishing point. Now, I've introduced these 2 points, but I did not tell you how I found them. Okay, so if you look at my building in this case over here is drawn with a 30-degree set square, luckily. Okay, so it's very easy in this way over here, but if it wasn't, you'd need to go and use your sliding set square, line it up to this line over here, put your set square underneath here, hold it sturdy and slide it along. Okay, called the sliding set square method. Okay, it's a technique that you would need to know if you're going up to metric level. Alright, so in this case over here, we know that that is at 30 degrees, and I need to then slide my set square along until it then connects to my stationary point. That's what SP stands for. Okay, it connects to my stationary point, it gets projected up to my picture plane, and then vertically down on my horizon line. Remember, we spoke about the horizon line there, where that ship will disappear or vanish eventually, will be on the horizon. Okay, the further and further away it goes from me, the smaller and smaller it gets until it eventually vanishes on the horizon. Okay, so this is a two-point perspective, therefore there will be 2 vanishing points, one on the right and one on the left. Okay, now that I've done the right vanishing point, obviously if that's a 90-degree angle, I'm going to go 60 degrees in that direction, and I've got to go ahead and draw a parallel line, slide my set square along until it lines up with my stationary point. Draw it all the way up to my picture plane, and then vertically down onto my horizon line yet again, and this time it will be my left vanishing point. Okay, so now that I've got the information on my information bar, the height information that is, okay, I'd need to connect that to my right vanishing point and to my left vanishing point. Okay, so I've given a little bit of extra information on my top view, and this might help those who are battling with 2-point perspective a little bit. If I have, let's take these 2 points. Remember that these 2 points, one above the other directly, will be represented by that one dot over there. Why? Because it's a top view. So this one dot over here will be representing this dot here and that dot there, which are connected, forming a line. Well, it's the upper and the lower which is directly above and below one another. So there it is over there. So if I have a line going to the right, I must be connecting it to my right vanishing point. Well, let's test that theory. There's the point. It's going to the right. Therefore, if it's going to the right, it must go to my right vanishing point. Okay, cool. So I'm going to now go and say, well, I need to find this point over here. So if I had to, from this point, move further right, I wouldn't find anything on the right hand side. Yet, if I had to go from this point to the left, I would find this point over here. So I'm going to go into a left direction. There it is over there. My left hand direction would have to go and connect to my left vanishing point. Okay, so that's proven. But the question still remains. That point over there does not touch the picture plane. So how do I find this line over here? How do I find the distance? How far back that needs to go? How long this line will need to be? Well, remember that the stationary point, in this case over here, that is me, or in this case, you. You will be the one there. I will see the top of your head over there, and you will be looking at your object, number one, scanning it from left to right. And whatever you're able to see, that is what you're going to be drawing. That's why it's called a 2-point perspective, because you're going to have a perspective of the left-hand side of the building, and you're going to have a perspective of the right-hand side of the building. Okay, so I'm going to connect anything that's not touching the picture plane to my stationary point. So I like to do it a little bit differently. I like to put a little eye over here, because that's you. And whatever you see there along these lines, that is what you're going to draw. Okay, so I can see this point over here from my stationary point. There it goes. And remember, it's not represented on the picture plane, so I've got to get it represented by that line. So where that point there, that line there cuts the picture plane, I now know how far that'll be. I'd have to go and connect that point to that parameter given over there. Okay, so that was easy. Let's try something that's going to the left hand side. This point over here, I do exactly the same thing, because from my eye perspective, I see that point. So that is the line at which I see that point. Where it cuts the picture plane, however, that's where I've got to drop it straight down. And it will give me the parameter of where it is connected to my left vanishing point. Now the next building or block is number 2. And I'm going to be using the same height information for number 2. So it makes it a lot easier. I know the further along I go to the left, the more I'm going to vanish, or the smaller and smaller I'm going to get, isn't it? Okay, so you can see the further and further away I move away from the picture plane, the smaller my object is going to get. But in this case here, my object is going to the left hand side, and this is the point I'd like to make. from this contact point over here. The points that I need to find will be this one here and this one here, going towards the left side, or my left vanishing point. Okay, so if I had to go find anything to the right of that point over there, I would also be able to find that point, and if I'm going to the right of this point, I'll be able to find that point. Okay, so anything I see, I draw. So I connect my eye to that point again, it cuts the picture plane, and I drop it straight onto the parameter in which I can work. Remember, we are using the same heights. This point over here, I connect to my eye, which is my stationary point. It's represented on my picture plane, and I drop it straight down, and that would be the line that I'd need to draw. Remember, what I see is what I draw. Now you might ask, but if that was the only shape that I needed to draw, how would I have known? So I'm going to imagine that number 1 wasn't here. How would I know how to draw number 2 over here? Well, it's quite easy. Remember, we know the angle is going to be 60 degrees. So I can simply go ahead and go and project this line down onto my picture plane, because remember, we don't have anything representing on the picture plane as yet, because number 1 doesn't exist. And once I've projected that line down, touching the picture plane, I can just go ahead and draw this line straight down. Now this is obviously my information bar, and what does it hold again? Information about my height. I project all the heights that I need onto there, and I project that straight back down to my left vanishing point and my right vanishing point. In this case over here, my left vanishing point is going to be more effective, so I'm going to use that information. Now I need to know where this actual point is going to be along this line. So yet again, all I do is I connect this point to my stationary point, which is my eye. Where it represents itself on the picture plane, I drop it straight down. So whether number 1 was there or not, I'll still be able to find number 2. Okay, so I hope this information has assisted you guys in understanding 2-point perspective, because believe it or not, if you can find one point as a 2-point perspective option, you can find the next. Remember, if you are battling, just break it down into its simplest form. This over here is another point, and remember, when we take 2 points and we connect them to one another, we form a line. When we connect lines to one another, we form lamina, which is a flat surface, and when we connect lamina or flat surfaces to one another, we form shapes. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching.